Hi, Tori. I'm so excited to have you on my podcast.
Good morning, Lisa. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're currently out in your Montana home.
Oh, yes. We're in Bozeman. It's gorgeous this time of year, but the mornings, it was 41 degrees this morning. So my puppy coat came out for the first time.
I love it so much. I love it. It's kind of a fun time of year for sure.
It is.
What I also love is how you and I met. I remember sitting in my Florida office, getting a phone call from you, and you being the digger that you are, trying to find properties to buy, had found a listing on Craigslist from us. I think it's probably the only super legitimate contact I've made through Craigslist, but you called and somehow we hit it off. I loved you from the moment that I first started talking to you.
Same. I remember meeting you at I feel like when we first met up for coffee, as I was going, I was like, I feel like this is like a sister from another mother. I've only had a conversation with her on the phone, but like what I do, I don't know about you, but like when I get bored with work, I've got to like drum up some other ways to do things. And so sometimes I just start getting creative. I'm like, all right, I'm stepping away from the list. I'm stepping away from like, the database or just like looking online for things. I'm going to look online in a different way. That day I
Yeah.
was like, going to Craigslist. Maybe somebody posted something there. Like you never know. And sure enough, I found you. So there's gold when you dig.
There is. And sometimes it's just like a good exercise to kind of keep your brain busy doing something else. And it was very fortunate on my part that I got to chat with you and have gotten to know you over the last couple of years. So tell me a little bit about your journey. You're a Minnesota girl, born and raised,
Yes, I
right?
am. Yes, I am. My accent always gets a little deeper when I leave after visiting.
I love it. And then you have had many adventures through that all of a sudden took you to living your best life in Montana. Can you tell me
Yeah.
how you got there? Just your
Sure.
journey.
Sure, just I'll kind of give you the quick glossy journey. So yeah, I grew up in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. Um, loved my upbringing there. Grew up in a real estate family similar to you. My dad was in commercial real estate all through childhood, all through. He's still plugged in. I think it's something that just like runs in you. Once you get it, you can't let go of it.
For
But
sure.
it's in my blood. And so yeah, I grew up ski racing at Buck Hill. And that little hill turns out a lot of great ski racers and a lot
It
of
really
people
does.
that also get a passion for going really fast down mountains. So I went from Buck Hill to moving on. I went to college on the East Coast, lived in LA for a short time, and then after that, I just had to get back to skiing. So I moved to Colorado, and that's when I really started digging into that real estate blood running through my brains, or excuse me, my veins and my
And your
brains.
brains, because I know
My
that
brain.
you got some
I
good
had to
real estate
stimulate it.
brains. Yeah, absolutely.
So I got a job in Denver, Colorado, working for, this is so funny. I knew I wanted to get into real estate, but I didn't really know like what avenue I wanted to go down. So I found this job. It was like a temporary, I called a temp gig place. And it was
Okay.
a job for this woman who was going on maternity leave. And at that point in time, I was like 21, 22. I thought like, wow, this girl who's having a baby, like she's old.
I
Now I'm like,
love it.
wow, she was so young. But I got this job. I took her job while she was on maternity leave, and it was working for a retail development and brokerage firm in Denver. And that was like my first job at like getting my feet wet in that world. And I really liked it. I was like, ooh, this is cool. But she came back because she really liked it too. And I no longer had a job. But I now had something to put on my resume. And so I started poking around and I found this another amazing job. I worked for a guy, Charlie Woolley at St. Charlestown Company in Denver. And he did this really cool thing where he had a passion for old buildings, historic buildings, and he'd take those old, beautiful buildings and turn them into something new. And so I became his marketing director and then helped, started selling. We did a lot of condo conversions, office condo conversions, apartment condo conversions. We also like took the old Benjamin Moore paint factory building and turned it into lofts and then sold them and then put an affordable housing piece on the side. So that was really like,
Wow, what
that
a great
gave
experience.
me so much passion for real estate, a sense of place, and like the opportunity and creativity out there. Before I had kind of thought that commercial real estate was just numbers, and office buildings and, but really like there's so much creativity and so much potential and so much potential to like affect a place. So it reminds me, now I'm going to go off on a tangent, but like the other day I was talking to somebody in Denver and I was telling her a quick story, like, hey, I used to live in Denver too. Here's this job I had. And she was like, no way. My brother lives in that paint factory building now.
Oh, that's super
So cool.
cool. That
And
is
I was like,
cool.
I did that. I was a
I,
part of that project.
I love
So
that.
you have like this, this piece of history, like you've put your imprint on, on a community, on a place. So yeah, so that was kind of my time in Denver. And then I worked for a tenant rep firm after I left St. Charlestown Company. I worked for Cressa Partners and worked in tenant rep in the Denver and Boulder area. And then I met my husband and he was moving to Vail. So it didn't take me too long to hop on that train and I moved to Vail. Not a ton of commercial was happening there at that point. So I transitioned a bit and worked on a couple of developments in Beaver Creek and Vail, fractional ownership developments. They took like a portion of the hotels and turned them into fractional ownership. And I sold those and did really well and got into kind of that second home, luxury home market. Sold timeshare, fractional, big, huge second homes, crazy world there. And then we moved to Bozeman and I just fell in with one of the top residential real estate brokers here, which was fabulous. But again, just kind of was like, leading me through experience. I was having all these experiences. And after a few years of that with little kids, I realized that I was being pulled in way too many directions and I needed to kind of get back to that 9 to 5 kind of feeling, or 9 to 3 feeling was really what I
Right.
was gunning. And I set a goal and said, I just want to buy a building. Like my husband and I had been planning for years, saving for years to buy a building. And we just knew that was something we wanted to do. And we were finally at a point where we were like, we can set this goal and I think we can attain it. Like we've saved enough money. Let's just figure it out. And so that was my transition from transactional real estate to, okay, now I'm going to be transacting for myself. I'm going to start learning all about investing. I had a few investments in the past, but nothing quite so big as buying like a commercial building. And gosh darn it, Lisa, I did it. I bought a building and the rest is history. Like the smile on my face every day and my work day from 9 to 3, or, even if it is 9 to 3, it's amazing. So my trajectory has been a long, really fun journey of learning all the ins and outs. And I still have so many things to learn about real estate. I'm sure you would agree. It's like the best industry to be in because there's so much to learn. Every deal is different.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, I think. And it is, there's every single deal is complicated, as you've said, and also just there's always something that you have to learn or some situation or something. And it's if you don't pull your hair out, it keeps it really interesting.
It's
And
true. It ebbs and flows.
right. And were you just starting to talk about doing this, or were you just starting this process when you and I first met, or had you been on that, path looking for buildings long before we first met? I'm just kind of trying to, you haven't been doing this for a really long time, right?
I can't remember. I mean, it hasn't been that long, probably like 5 years,
Okay.
since I've been doing that. And we had invested in the past, but not to the point where it was like, all right, this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be buying buildings, I'm not going and investing in a short-term rental house or a long-term rental condo or whatever, or investing passively with others. Like I can do this. And it took a lot for me to realize, even with my background, like I've been embedded in this world for a long time, and I have incredible resources at my fingertips. But man, like to gather the courage to jump into this space and spend a lot of money and time and risk, it takes a big leap of faith. And I did it.
And it's not a short, and kudos to you. And it's not a short process either. So,
No.
taking that risk to just say, I'm going to go, out and find that building or that first building and build this portfolio. It's hard to leave your day job. And when you get used to that kind of that constant transactional energy, to go to really being choosy and trying to find the right building, right? Because you just can't buy any old building. How did you even start deciding what you wanted to buy, where you wanted to go? What was your
It's funny, we, in the beginning, this was as early back as when I was living in Denver. My dream was to buy, a mixed use building, beautiful little cute brick building, with a coffee shop on the main
love
floor.
it.
Maybe a loft up top, if it's 3 stories, maybe you put a dental office or something above that. Who knows? It just sounded so sexy. And so for so long it was like, wow. And really like nothing against it. Like, yes, being a part, creating community and like that whole small town kind of feel. I'm always drawn to those small towns and those cute little brick buildings. But when I really dug in was when I realized that like that sexy brick building isn't necessarily what's going to bring you money.
Yeah, there's that.
Theme, but it might be a little bit more of like a creative outlet than a cash flow.
Right.
And so I just started putting it out there. Like when I really hit the gas on this, I went out and I bought a planner. Like I went to the self-help section of the bookstore when I was transitioning from, I had sold a business and I was still selling real estate here in Bozeman. It was going gangbusters. And then we were just like, I need a break. I need to figure out like what's next. And so I don't know if any of you have found yourself in the self-help section, but there I was, grabbed a book, and the book was talking about, like goal setting. And I mean, yeah, I had like reached goals before, but I'd never been really intentional about goals. And so I bought a planner, and at the beginning of the planner, it said, what's your 90-day goal? And I wrote down to buy a building. And so that was like the start. And golly, I bought a building in 90 days. And it was not the brick building that I thought it was going to be, this cute little brick building. It was an auto center.
Oh, I love it.
And it was not, it wasn't sexy at all. It was kind of an ugly building. My husband's a real estate inspector, or property inspector. And so he inspects commercial and residential and branches and all the things. So he flew out and he went and looked at the building, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not the building I thought was going to be like our first, like, woo.
Right.
It was a automotive center, and albeit old and grimy, it was a great building, and it cash flowed, and there was value add and all the things, and we were able to really make that thing work for us. So
That's amazing.
Your question about like how did I even get started, it was like I literally set that goal. And a lot of investors, I network with investors across the nation, and a lot of them, it sounds woo, but like it's all about your mindset. It's like, get your mindset right, set a goal, and that goal isn't always going to come to fruition how you think it will. But oftentimes it gives you, what you actually need. And that automotive center was a great, it was a really great start for me.
Wow, that is amazing. I love what you're saying about being intentional. And I'm a big planner, but I'm also hearing you say that you like took a risk in your goal. Like it was
Yeah.
it was like you set a pretty aggressive goal to buy a building in 90 days. I mean that was
Yeah.
and you just decided you were gonna do it.
Yep, I did. And this deal came to me because I reached out to my network and I was like, I've got this goal. Like I want to buy a building. I'm out there. And I had that imposter syndrome that we're all talking about right now, like, oh my gosh, can I buy a building? Am I a building buyer? Like what does this look like? I like pink, I'm a girl, I'm not one of these guys that's out there, buying buildings, owning buildings. Because most of the buildings that I call on, they're owned by men, and that's great. But you can feel a little bit like, oh, little me. And so this building I came upon this building. I was looking at buildings all over the place, but this building came and I ran the numbers and I was like, this one works.
That's
And it's
amazing.
not what I thought, but it looks like it works. And it's still scary. There's still some hair on it. It's risky, but it works. And so if I'm going to do it, like I better take this and run with it. And I always talk about, I teach a class called Girl by That Building. And I always talk about building your team. And I will tell you, like, when you are a beginner, when you're an intermediate, when you're advanced, when you're an expert, like you still need your team. And I mean, even more so when you're a beginner, like building that team around me and relying on them and asking them questions and learning from them. That was all I needed to get to the finish line. And I did. I did it. And then I kept building my team, and I still lean on my team. Something happened the other day and I was like, ooh, I've never run into this before. I better, and I wrote down all the people that I needed to call and I called them all. And I still have more calls to make, but that team is really what made me, get over that first hurdle and take that first big risk. They helped de-risk the risk for me as much as possible.
That makes sense. I want to talk about Girl by That Building in a minute, but talk a little bit about who's on your team, not necessarily naming people unless you want to, but talk about what do you need to have on your team?
Sure. So you have to have a really smart real estate attorney that you get along with and that you like and who likes you. I'm really lucky to have a friend who's a friend from high school and is there in Minneapolis, John Scepter at Maslin. He's phenomenal. And I can call him up and run through things with him. And yes, attorneys charge a lot of money, but goodness gracious, they work on a lot of deals. And so if you're trying to figure something out, like that's a great person to call. And if you don't want to call them first, you can call your trusted real estate broker, your commercial real estate broker. I always tell people, like, if you have commercial real estate brokers, and not everybody does in their area, but if you do, that's who you want on your commercial real estate investing team, is a commercial real estate broker, because they've done deals. Lisa's done deals. Your team has done commercial deals and knows the ins and outs and how to read leases and, all those things. I think that's, so those are two: commercial real estate broker, real estate attorney, accountant. I meet with my accountant every quarter. And my accountant knows my name. He knows what our goals and dreams are. It sounds cheesy, but like he knows what we're gunning for as a family, as a partnership, my husband and I, and where we want to get to. And that just like makes him feel a part of us and like wants to cheer us on. I really believe in that when you have people working for you, you want them to feel like they are a part of your team. So like your wins are their wins and vice versa. And then let's see, all the others, accountant, real estate attorney, commercial real estate broker, And, your lenders, your bankers, those are key people too. This thing that popped up, last week for me, that was my first call as to my lender who I have a loan with. It's a local lender, and you can always, they're super smart people. You can run ideas by them, have them help you run numbers, strategize all the things. So that's kind of like the first layer of your team, but there's so many more people.
Well, and you are a master connector. So you just, people are drawn to you, and you know how to attract really smart people. And it's fun to watch you. And tell me a little bit about Girl Buy That Building. What was the impetus for starting Girl Buy That Building?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think the piece about the people around you, and that segues into Girl Buy That Building. But, having people with you for the ride is so much more fun than being on your own.
So fun.
And this world right now is, there's so many entrepreneurs out there, and I'm an entrepreneur through and through and through and through. But an entrepreneur has a lonely job sometimes. A lot of times you're just on your own. And so finding those people to surround yourself with that like help build you up and help keep you light and interested and inspired and all the things, and smarter and challenging you, it is so important. And I found during this journey into commercial real estate investing that there are not a lot of women in this world. It's the same for other industries and other things, sure. But I was like, no harm, no foul, but I'd love to be surrounded by more women in what I'm doing day in and day out. I love men. And I have a lot of wonderful men in my life, and I have great conversations with men every day. But when I call on a building and a woman answers and she's the owner, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Like, I don't even you don't need to sell your building to me, but let's talk. This is so cool. Like, how'd you buy this building? What are you into? What's your story? And hearing their stories. So, I had this feeling like, gosh, I want to see more pink, in the world. My business cards are pink. I send pink postcards out to building owners. And the networking events I go to, a lot of women I found were coming up to me, and a lot of them were like incredible investors in their own right, and all sorts of different things, but not in non-residential commercial real estate. And they were like, gosh, Torrey, I'd love to learn more about buying a building from you. And I was like, well, goodness, you own apartment buildings, or you own 20 short-term rentals, or you're passively invested in all these different funds and syndications. Why are you asking me about buying buildings? You can do it too. But they were like, no, but I don't really know the nuances. And I'm like, yeah, this is a nuanced world. It's different. And so the more women that were coming to me, I just started feeling like, oh, goodness, this might be something new for me. Maybe I need to pay attention to this new inspiration that's coming. And so the more I thought about it, I was like, I should do, a webinar or a class or something. And that is when Girl Buy That Building was hatched, or born, or, whatever you want to call it. I was like, I'm going to create a class just for women, a safe space, a comfortable space for women to learn about buying commercial real estate, and specifically triple net commercial real estate. So we launched this past spring, and so far it's been phenomenal. So many women out there have called me, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I've always thought that it'd be so cool to buy a building, but I didn't even know what that entailed. And these are super smart women. And then there's women that are like, suddenly I find myself in a position where I feel like I need to buy this building because my business is in it, or, what have you, but I don't even know what to do. I do this for a living. Here's my W-2 over here. And it's so far removed from what buying a building looks like. And so we walk down that path together from soup to nuts. And a lot of that is, feathering in confidence, that you can do this. This is just like anything else you set your mind to. It's mindset, it's goal setting, and it's education.
I love it. And so how is it structured? You have
Sure.
small class sizes, right?
Yep, only 3 to 5 women, and I cherry picked those women to make sure that, that group is synergistic, and that everybody can learn from one another based on what each of them are going through and at what point in their trajectory they are. So 3 to 5 women. It's an 8-week course. We meet 2 hours a week, and then there's a bunch of fun homework to do, and a lot of it is hands-on. One woman asked me, do we have a textbook? And I was like, no, we don't have a textbook. We have all sorts of things. But this isn't textbook learning. This is experiential and it's outcome based. So at the end of this course, you literally can go and start calling on people, and you know what to do and you know who to call. For most anything when it comes to buying a building. So like I just finished a section, an 8-week session with a group of ladies. And at the end, the one comment was like, this is my next career. I'm so psyched. Like I found my next calling. I'm doing this.
That's
And another one
amazing.
was like, I just feel so, she's in the middle of buying a building and she's like, I just feel so much more empowered now that I know how this process goes. And I know that I have this team to build around me and I get to rely on my team, and it's not just me anymore. Like I'm not alone. I have people out there to support me.
That's amazing. How fun. So what are you working on these days? Are you finding lots of projects? The market's been kind of goofy, and I don't know what's going to happen here, but what are you focused on these days?
Okay, so there's a lot of like how we met of me looking on looking on Craigslist or just getting creative. You got to come up with those creative ideas because there's things lurking. I mean, I'm sure you talk to so many people right now that, well, there's not a lot going on right now. There's this stalemate of, sellers and buyers right now. There's not a lot going on. Interest rates are still too high. Cap rates are low, blah, blah, blah. But I don't accept that. I just, some days I do, some days I'm down and I'm like, I don't feel like dealing with it today. But
I
some
get it.
days, most days, I'm just like, no, there's always opportunities out there. So we're going to dig somebody up today, and the opportunity might be in a new person I meet, or it might be in a new way of going about looking for a building. Like if you haven't been in the car recently and drove around, what do they call it? Driving for dollars.
Yeah.
Drive around, see what buildings are out there. Well, that place looks interesting. The lawn hasn't been mowed in the whole summer. Wonder what's happening there, but there's still businesses that are operating. That might be an interesting opportunity. So there's a lot of that, and education. And then, there's always weird opportunities that come up. Like I mentioned earlier, I had an interesting thing come up on a building this past week, and it just wasn't something I expected or ever planned for. And so I'm like, is this an opportunity? Maybe. Like, let's start going down that road. So now I actually might have to go 1031 into something right now. And so I'm looking at that deal. So I'm looking at following up with some of the building owners that I've been in contact with to see if there might be opportunities there. Really talking a lot about seller financing and trying to get some of that to move, and understanding that process from my perspective, and also being able to put yourself in a seller's shoes, another building owner's shoes, because I am a building owner, so I'm on both sides.
Sure.
I think that's a really interesting part of this game right now. So yeah, I would say it's just like staying on your toes and not getting down, because an entrepreneur, you're on your own. You got to find you got to find your motivation. I know there's a lot of commercial real estate brokers out there that are, calling right now. I've gotten a lot of calls. I mean, shame on you if you are in this business and you are not picking up the phone right now and connecting with people, because networking is really the name of the game, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting market for and I think there's gonna be opportunity, and it's gonna be hard for some groups, and it,
Yeah.
like you said, you're your team can help get you through that. But if, hard work and digging is what makes you successful, it doesn't just come to you. And how
No,
do you just stay up all the time? I mean, you talk about it's not every day, but like you just really have like such an amazing energy and attitude, and it's just so contagious. Like I should probably call you once a week.
let's have a call every day,
Oh,
8
yeah,
a.m.
exactly. Well, I'm working out. Oh, I don't really do that every day at 8 a.m.
Uh, uh, it's honestly always been in me. I've just always been kind of one of those hoorah people, much to the disgrace of some, not disgrace, but like some people are like, oh geez, tone it down, Torrey. But I just have this energy, like I've got a zest for life. I feel like if you're not going to enjoy the day, then go sit at home. Just be
It's
a
a
part of it.
choice. I always say it's a choice.
You
Yeah.
have a choice, and I do. I make a choice every day. I wake up really early, and I meditate and I read. I'll either read, some sort of self-development book, or I'll read a business book. That's like my morning reading for probably a half an hour. And then I go exercise. I get those endorphins going, and I try to get outside in the morning. And I have a huge dog, so that dog needs to get out. And I go outside, I watch the sunrise, and I see those beautiful mountains, those misty mountains in the morning. And then I'm ready for my day. And it helps feather that, that beauty of being joyful throughout my day.
I love that. So many people say that your morning routine is really what sets the tone for, and successful people have a really good morning routine. Sounds like you have that.
Yes. Have you ever read the book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod?
I've seen it. I probably bought it and may not have read it.
Well, we have Audible now, so listen
Right.
to it.
Okay.
That guy, his story is so inspiring, and he studied, like, before he wrote the book, he studied all these successful people around the world. And one of the commonalities, like the glaring commonality, was that they all had a morning routine. And it didn't necessarily happen like super early in the morning. It just happened at some point during the day. There was some sort of like routine to fill your bucket up, if you will. And then he wrote the book based on that. And now he's got a huge franchise, but he has a beautiful story. It's so inspiring. I'd highly encourage reading that. And then the other one I was going to tell you, the book I'm reading right now, this guy, his name is David Nurse. And I think the book's called Breakthrough. And maybe there's a couple other lines there, but
We can put some links in the show notes on those two books.
oh yeah. So his book Breakthrough, what I was reading yesterday, he was saying that everybody, so it's all about basketball. He was a basketball player growing up, and then he never made it like that far, but he wanted to continue on because he was like so pregnant with basketball. And so now he's a mindset coach. He's been a like mindset coach for athletes, all the things. So he talks about basketball. And what I was reading yesterday that I loved and I wanted to start to try to implement at least a couple of times a week is the idea of a halftime, like your halftime break. What's it called? Like halftime. Yeah. So at
Depending
halftime,
on what sport.
yeah, at halftime, the team comes back together, reframe what the second part of the game is going to look like. And so you could be falling apart during the first half.
Of a day? Are you talking of a day?
And he applies it to a day. So like going from the game to the day. And so everybody should have that halftime break, 20 minutes, halftime should be your lunch break. Who takes a lunch break anymore? By yourself alone to just reframe, like grab your planner, sit down and reframe. What does the rest of the day look like? Because likely the first half of your day got sidetracked somehow.
For sure.
And so how are you, like, you might have had a plan for the second half of your day, but it might not be able to go that way anymore because of the way the morning went. So reframe. I love that.
I do love that too. I've not heard that before.
Yeah.
And once you get rolling, it's hard to stop and really think about kind of where things are at and take a breath. Remember to breathe.
Totally. Remember to breathe.
That's so great.
You won't.
So great. And the family's good. You've got little ones.
The family's great. I've got 2 little girls and they're in school, back in school. Hallelujah. Everybody's on a routine and we're all just working hard and playing hard. We love to have fun out here in Montana. I know lots of Minnesotans love to come to Montana. So look me up when you come out here. Would love to ski, have a coffee, get out
Love
on the
it.
river.
And you have interest in purchasing property. If we have a property to sell,
Yes.
you want to buy.
So I am looking, right now I have an almost immediate need. And then I just have a lingering need, for value add properties in Minnesota. I buy property in Minnesota. My whole team's there. I like to stay in that area, and it's an easy flight and an excuse to see my family. So, yeah, value add properties. We're kind of in that sweet spot. I'm not one of the big guys. I'm a medium girl. I like kind of the 1 to 7 million price point, and anywhere 20,000 square feet and above. And flex buildings are really my love child. I love making those things work. They work in all markets, it seems to me, at least for now. So yeah, 1 to 7 million, 20,000 square foot plus, flex buildings. Or, if you've got an interesting deal you want to run by me, I'd love to look at it.
I love it so much. I mean, just having a conversation with you is just worth the phone call for sure. And having the opportunity to share you with my audience has been just a total delight. I'm so excited to spend this time with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love your energy, and you have been on Girl by That Building, which is so fabulous in our brokerage section. So it was so fun to bring your energy to my audience. And so I'd love to give back to all the people that are listening to Lisa Christensen. I do have a free 30-minute strategy session, and anything you want to talk about, I'm happy to chat. It all depends. People call me and they just want to, talk real estate or whatever it is that you've got on your plate, or how to get started. And that website to schedule with me is free commercial investment strategy session.com.
And again, we'll put that link on the show notes for sure. And what an amazing offer to get a half hour with you. I think that's amazing.
Well, same goes for you, Lisa, and I can't wait. I'm hoping to hop on a plane and come to Minneapolis soon so we can have lunch.
I would love that. I can't wait. Well, take care. Thank you. And we'll look forward to that lunch and talk to you soon.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you.